Today we're learning about domain and range. So I need you to know that the easiest way to remember this is domain is always about x, range is always about y. That is pretty much the easiest definition that I can give you. Let's take some examples. For example, if you were given a list of coordinates, a discrete list with specific points, domain is always found using the x value. Range is always found using the y value. Which means that if I was trying to write out the domain and the range, I use brackets and list out my domain numbers, which are the x values, and brackets to list out my y values, which is the range. So first, x values, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I go down here and I write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then my range was 1, 2, 5, 10, 15. Oh gosh, that was a terrible 15. Okay, so let's move on to different types of discrete dots. So just like this was discrete up here, there were dots, specific points. This just wasn't on a graph. However, these are specific points who also have coordinates, who also have x values and y values. We could list out the coordinates if we wanted to see the x value is easy, or we can just do this. We look at the x value, the x-axis here, and try to see which number these are at. So this one looks like it's at -2. This one's at -1. So I'm going to say my domain is -2, -1. These two look like they're both at the 1 on the x-axis. And these two way over here kind of look like they should be at the 3. All right, Trevelyan, tell me what the range means. Where do I look for range? Y-axis. The y-axis. So instead of domain with x-axis, the range is y-axis. So I'm going to use a different color highlighter to help us figure out the numbers of the range. So I have dots that cross or that hit the graph at the y value being -2. I have dots right here, which technically falls along the 0 on the y-axis. Here as 1 and here as 3. So I write all of those numbers just to make sure that I know what my range is. -2, 0, 1, and 3. Okay, let's move on to regular lines. Now, however, the lines that we work with in algebra for domain and range usually end. Sometimes we will get to instances where they don't end and they have arrows like this, or they might curve or something like that. But for now, we're just going to work with, or right now, I'm just going to tell you how to do a line. So, domain I work with what? Trevelyan?
X.
X-axis, and then range I will work with
Y.
the y-axis. So, there's the x-axis. If I am looking at this line, I have the line starting here and then ending about here in relation to the x-axis. So it starts about -3 and it ends at +3. And the way I write this for domain is I can use these fancy bird lips bracket things, and I can write -3 is less than x is less than +3. I got the number from here and from here because that is as far as the line went. What is one more thing about this Trevelyan that I didn't mention? Maybe about the inequality signs.
The circles are shaded in.
The circles are not shaded in this time, which means that I don't put an or equal to thing on the bottom of those. But whenever I do have shaded ones, what do I put instead of
Or equal to.
the or equal to signs? Good. So for now, whenever I have circles that aren't shaded in, that's what I do. Patience, where do I look for the range?
On the y-axis.
On the y-axis. So there's the y-axis. I notice that down here is kind of where it starts, right there at -2. It ends way up here at 4. So I'm going to write my range as an inequality statement saying that -2 is as small as it gets, y is everything in between, and 4 is as big as it gets. And remember, we don't put the or equal to because it doesn't quite hit the -2, and it doesn't quite hit the value of 4. That is why the dots are open. Then we get to examples like this, where we don't have dots on both sides. We have one side that is continuous. So we're still looking for domain and range. We're still looking for the x-axis for domain. So down here, we do not even care about the numbers on the y-axis. It does look like I start right about here at what number, Trevlin? I think it should be, 2. My bad. I was in the way. 2, and then it goes on forever. It goes on forever. It does not end. So this is how I write the, oh, that was a terrible bracket. I can also use those little staples as brackets also. I can put that x, because domain is x, is everything greater than or equal to the number 2. Which means y is probably going to be really similar, except the only difference is I don't look at the x-axis anymore. I look at the y-axis, which means that I need to know that this is as low as the numbers go, and then they will continue on and getting higher and higher in y values forever. So, Trevor?
Y is greater than or equal to 1.
Good, and I like that he said 1 and not 2, because we had to look at this number and we don't care about the x values anymore. Okay, let's look at the domain and the range for this line. We go with the x-axis for domain, so we are at -2. This is a closed circle, so the way I write this is -2 with an or equal to x. And I notice that this is going to be an open circle, so I don't put the or equal to at the end, and it looks like it's right there at 5. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. Okay, so then the range, we don't care about the x values anymore. All we care about is the y values, which like sits down here and right there. So what numbers are those? Can y'all tell?
2 and 3. 2 and -3.
I think that's -3, right?
Yeah.
And then this one is,
2. Positive.
that's 1.
Or 1.
That's 0. That one's hard to see. It's like too faded, yeah. So -3, I got a closed dot on that one, and this time I put a y because it's range, and then an open dot, and I put 1. Good. So I'm gonna skip down here to domain and range for this line. This one is actually really easy. Basically, if I'm looking at the domain, which is the x-axis, and this one's also hard to see because it's so dark. If I'm looking at the x-axis for the domain, this line goes out and out forever and ever that way, and out and out forever and ever that way, so there's no limitations on it. We don't have to put a starting and an end number, so technically it's all numbers, so we call this all real numbers. Can y'all guess what the range is going to be?
All real numbers.
All real numbers. That means if you ever took a coordinate off of this line, wherever, it could be way up here, if you wanted to take a coordinate way up there, you would eventually, if you wanted to list out all the coordinates for this line, because it is continuous, you will hit every single x value and every single y value that exists. Alright, let's do a few more. Let's talk about ones like these. Okay, so this circle. Still pretty easy. We still only look at the x-axis. Looks like I start right about there, which is 5, and right about here, which is 3. So my domain goes from 5, x to 3. This reads 5 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 3, which basically is saying that x is in the middle of the numbers 5 and 3, all the x values, every x value you can think of. That means the range is going to go on the y-axis, which is about here, and here. So 1 to, or negative 1 to 7. Oh, that was supposed to be a negative 5 also. Negative 1 to 7. And I do the or equal to symbols because there is no open dot. It's a whole straight line. All right, last one I'm going to do. Actually, I'll do one more. My handwriting is getting sloppy. I'm like, it's too early for my handwriting or something. Okay, domain on the x-axis is this one right here. And it's kind of hard to count, so I'll help you guys out. If this is the origin right there, I think this is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did I count that right? Yeah. Negative 5, and then this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So I go from negative 5 to 5. And then the range is different numbers, but it's only because it goes from way down here to way up there, which 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then
there's 8 on top.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, good job. I should have trusted Trevlin. Negative 6 to 8, and then I'm going to fill in the stuff with the y's. Notice I always put x's for domain and y's for range, and these are my domain and range numbers. Yeah. The last one is pretty easy. Just so we're clear, that is the origin right there. That is the y and the x-axis. They're kind of funky because it's in a lower position. But when I'm talking about the domain, I am talking about the x, or the x value down here. So even though this line is short, it has arrows. What do the arrows mean, guys?
It goes on forever.
Goes on forever and ever, which tells us that the domain should probably be
all row numbers.
Yeah, good. All row numbers. Oh.
Oof.
I put 2 L's on real. I'm just going to put it like that. All row numbers. And then this is the funky part. The part for the y values, the range. It only ever goes right there. At 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for the range, because it only ever hits one number, I just say y equals 5. And that's it. Thank you for watching my video of domain and range. Bye, guys.